Have you ever wanted to know what the heck is earnest money for? What's up guys, Robert here. Today I wanted to share with you some knowledge that you must know when buying your next home. Sit back and relax, and I hope everybody had their cup of coffee this morning. If you have ever bought a home, in the process of buying a home, or thinking about buying a home, you are definitely going to want to pay attention to what I have to say in this video. This information will help you not only to not lose any money on your next real estate transaction, but it will help you to understand what earnest money is.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button at the top of your screen there. Also, make sure your bell notification is turned on, guys.
So, what is earnest money? Well, the easiest way to understand what earnest money is to think of it this way. So, suppose you're a guy and you really like a girl, and you like her so much that you promise to marry her on a set day in the future. What do? Well, you buy her an engagement ring. This represents your promise to marry her on that future date. Now, if she decides that things aren't working out and decides to break off the engagement, well, most likely she'll probably end up giving your engagement ring back. Now, if on the other hand, you decide to break off the engagement, well, then she's probably just going to go ahead and sell the engagement ring and keep the money. I guess it really depends on how mad you made her. You can think of earnest money the same way that you would think about an engagement to be married. In a real estate transaction, it is a way for you as the buyer to promise that you're actually going to follow through with the deal and buy that piece of real estate without breaking the deal. Depending on the buyer and the seller, you can offer as much earnest money as you would like. There really is no set amount, but it is important to note that the buyer and the seller both need to agree on the amount of earnest money due. I like to say that a good rule of thumb to go by is 1% of the sales price of the house or the piece of property. Some markets, it may be acceptable to offer less. By offering earnest money, it shows that you are a serious buyer and that you have every intention on closing that deal. The more earnest money that you offer to a seller will then show the seller that you are a more serious buyer than the rest of your competition that also may be bidding on that house. Earnest money is usually given right after the signing of a binding contract, normally within 3 days. You should know that earnest money is not given to the seller. The seller does not hold on to this money while you guys are closing the transaction. That money is actually given to an escrow company, and then that escrow company will then put it into what we call an escrow account. Now, that money will stay in that escrow account until closing day. If written into your contract, on closing day, all your earnest money that you had deposited will then be credited towards part of your down payment. Let me warn you that it is possible for a buyer to lose their earnest money deposit. And this happens if the buyer decides to break the contract during the real estate transaction. If the buyer decides to break the contract while going through the real estate transaction, a release of earnest money form will be filled out and sent to the escrow company. The escrow company will then review the form, and then money will be released to the seller. Guys, trust me, that really sucks. And the reason why the seller would be given the earnest money is to compensate he or she on the time lost that they had to take the home off the market. What if you're going through the real estate transaction and you find some major issues with the property that you're trying to buy? What if your financing falls through? Can the buyer back out of the contract without losing their earnest money? Now, the answer to that question is absolutely yes, you can back out of the contract without losing your earnest money. Right now, I'm going to tell you exactly how to back out of that contract without losing any of your money that you deposited. In a real estate transaction, buyers have the option to add contingencies to that contract. Remember that it is a contract, so since it's a contract, you can add whatever you want. Now, contingencies are sort of like a safety net in case something were to ever happen. What I mean is like an unforeseen event. Contingencies can be written in the contract for all sorts of things, like if the home inspection comes back with issues, if a buyer is unable to secure financing to buy that piece of real estate, if a seller has not fixed something that was agreed to within the contract. Also, you as a buyer can ask for an option period. Now, this option period would be a set time frame, usually 1 to 2 weeks. And during this option period, the buyer can back out at any time for any reason at all. At this time, and only under the contingencies set forth within the contract, would a buyer be allowed to break the contract, without losing his earnest money, of course. It's important to know that these contingencies must be written in the contract from the beginning, and that's where having a good agent comes in. And now finally, that brings me to my plug. If you're looking to buy a home within the El Paso area and you need a good agent, go ahead and give me a call today, Robert LeMaster. I'll go ahead and leave all of my information down there in the description box.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Now let's go ahead and get back to the video. So a more simpler explanation for earnest money, it really is just good faith money that a buyer gives to the seller, give the seller a little bit more confidence in that buyer. Confidence that the buyer will go ahead and close the real estate transaction and that they are actually going to buy their house. Remember, the more money that you give as earnest money will then signal to the seller that you are a serious buyer. Basically, just a promise that you're going to close the transaction. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. I definitely enjoyed making it. It is my goal to provide my audience, which is you guys, the best information that I can. And it's also my goal to go ahead and get my information out to as many people as I can. And you guys can help me do that.
If you guys are not already subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you turn on that bell notification so you guys get notified every single time that I post content on here.
By subscribing to my channel, you're not only gaining more knowledge in real estate and also finance, but you're helping out more people by pushing this information to a much larger audience. Like always, I thank every one of you for your support, and until next time, later.